I think there's a million reasons why you're not successful. And I think the number one reason is because of distractions. So, something that I've been researching, something I've been looking into is what a distraction really is. Because, correct me if I'm wrong, I think the majority of people who think about distractions, they think of this in terms of a genuine, like, you're in the middle of a project and your friend calls you and is like, hey, you want to come downtown for blah, blah, blah. You're like, oh, I don't want to be distracted from my work. And of course, that is a distraction. I think that is, but I think that that's majority of what we think a distraction is and what a distraction basically is from start to finish. So what I've been realizing and researching is a distraction actually could be in elements of the work itself. So let's pick an area. We're doing the gym. We're working out back. A distraction could be an obvious one at the gym is somebody coming up to you and wanting to chat, right? That's a full-on distraction. Another distraction could be someone coming up to you to correct your form. Not a distraction, but what if the form that you are currently doing is the best form for your body, right? So hear me out. I had this friend who was telling me a story about deadlifting, and we're doing back, so this is a good time to tell the story. This is a IFBB pro who was telling me a story about how somebody came up to him at the gym and asked him what he thought of his deadlifting form, because obviously my friend is very much in shape and the guy who came up to him was not very much in shape. So my friend went over to him and gave him a little tweak of his deadlifting form to perfect it. This guy was very tall, so if you know anything about deadlifting, mobility in the way that you deadlift is different based off of your size and what you can do mobility wise. So my friend critiqued his form, fixed it, and although it wasn't perfect because of his size, he had a little bit of roundness to his back, which if you know deadlifting, rounding your back like a cat is not what's best for you. But at the same time, we have a IFBB Pro professional who trains people, who has trained me in the past for my competition, um, that tweaked this guy's form and left a little bit of the curl in there just so he could pick the weight up perfectly, do the form. It was not like 99% correct. It was 99% form adjustment, and he was off to the races. He gave him the now you're good. Your form is fixed. About 2 minutes later, my friend tells me that he looked over and the guy whose form he corrected, there was other people walking up to him to correct his deadlifting form that was just corrected. And although they weren't telling him bad advice, they were telling him bad advice for who he was. They were like, hey, get rid of the roundness, like do this a little bit more, straighten out your back, blah, blah, blah. Which in the standard sense of the deadlifting world is good advice, but my friend has that little extra piece of knowledge that corrected the form for him. So there was distraction in the good advice. Do you hear what I'm trying to say? Sometimes there's a distraction in the good advice, in the work, in the presentation, in the pursuit of getting where you want to go. Sometimes good advice is a distraction because it's not your personal advice. We have to remember that we are all individuals. Keep this in mind. What worked for Cat Williams, what works for Denzel Washington may not work for you because you are an individual. So keep looking at yourself as an individual.